Virgo, I need you to stop for a second. Just stop whatever you are doing and actually be present for what I am about to share with you. Because what I am picking up in your energy right now is not something I encounter often, not something I can casually mention and move on from. What is surrounding you at this particular moment in your life is the kind of energetic signature that makes me pause before I even begin. The kind that makes me choose my words carefully because I want to make sure I do justice to what I am actually seeing. And what I am seeing is this: you are on the edge of something, not in a dangerous way, not in an uncertain way. In the way that you stand at the edge of something vast and open and full, and you realize that everything behind you, every difficult chapter, every moment of waiting, every period where nothing seemed to be moving was preparation for the step you are about to take. That is where you are right now, and I do not think you fully know it yet. But by the time we finish here, you will. Let me start with something I want to address directly because I think it matters before anything else. Some of you listening to this have developed a very reasonable, very understandable resistance to the idea that something good is coming. You have heard versions of that before. You have allowed yourself to feel hope and then watched as that hope met reality and came back bruised. And so somewhere along the way, without fully deciding to, you started keeping your expectations low as a form of self-protection. If you do not get too excited, you cannot be too disappointed. If you stay neutral, stay cautious, stay guarded, then whatever comes, good or mediocre or somewhere in between, cannot hurt you the way it did when you let yourself fully believe. I understand that. I genuinely do. But I need to tell you something about that wall you have been living behind. It was built for a different season. It made sense when it was constructed. It protected you when you needed protecting. But the weather has changed, and a wall that was built for storms becomes a barrier to sunshine if you never take it down. What I am asking you to do today, just for the duration of this, is to lower it slightly, not abandon it, not become naive. Just create enough of an opening to let what I am about to describe actually reach you. Because it is real, and it is already in motion, and it deserves to be received by a version of you that is open enough to recognize it when it arrives. Now, let me talk about the word rare, because I used it deliberately, and I want to explain exactly what I mean by it. Rare does not mean impossible. Rare does not mean supernatural. Rare does not mean that the normal rules of life are being suspended on your behalf. Rare means uncommon. Rare means that what is approaching your life is not the standard version of a good thing. It is not the ordinary, predictable, this is nice version of a positive development. It is the specific version, the version that is shaped around the exact contours of your life, your history, your particular set of needs and longings and unanswered questions. Rare means that if you described what is coming to someone who knows you well, someone who understands the details of your journey, they would not say, that sounds nice. They would say, that sounds like it was made for you. Because it was, not in a way that defies logic, in a way that honors the very specific path you have been walking and delivers something that could only have been assembled by someone or something that has been paying very close attention to the details. I want to describe the quality of what is coming because I think understanding the quality matters as much as understanding the content. There is a lightness attached to it, not the brittle, forced lightness that comes from trying to be positive when everything feels heavy. The real kind. The kind that arrives when a tension you have been holding for so long finally releases, and you realize in the moment of that release just how much energy it was costing you to hold it. That is the quality of what is approaching. It is going to feel like exhaling after holding your breath for a very long time. It is going to feel like a knot loosening, like a weight that you had stopped noticing because you had been carrying it long enough that it began to feel like just part of you suddenly lifting. And in the absence of that weight, you are going to feel something you may have forgotten was available to you. A kind of ease, a kind of flow, a sense that things are not requiring the same effort they were requiring before, that the same actions are producing different results, that the friction which used to accompany everything you tried has quietly, without announcement, disappeared. That is not your imagination. That is the shift. Let me get specific about where this is going to show up first, because I feel it very clearly in a particular area of your life and I want to make sure it reaches you. There is something you have been working toward, something that has required sustained effort from you over a period of time that has felt longer than it should have. You have put in the work, you have shown up consistently, you have continued moving in the direction of this thing, even during the stretches where the feedback was minimal, where the progress was invisible, where the gap between your effort and your results felt discouraging in a way that was hard to explain to other people. They saw you working. They did not see what it cost you to keep going when the results were not matching the investment. That gap is about to close, not gradually, not in the slow, incremental way it has been moving until now. In the disproportionate way that happens when accumulated effort finally reaches a tipping point and suddenly converts into visible, undeniable, externally measurable results. You have heard of the concept of overnight success that took years to build. That is the energetic signature I am reading around you right now. The years have been the foundation, and what is coming is the structure that the foundation was always meant to support. You are about to see the return on an investment that you almost gave up on, and the return is going to be proportional not to your most recent effort, but to the entire body of effort. Everything you put in, every quiet, unseen, unrewarded moment of choosing to continue. All of it is being counted. All of it is in the calculation, and the calculation is nearly complete. Now I want to talk about the element of surprise, because the word I used was out of nowhere, and I meant it. What is coming is not going to arrive through the channel you have been watching. This is one of the things that makes it rare, not just its quality, but its origin. You have a mental model of how the good thing arrives. You have a picture of what the turning point looks like, what triggers it, what it comes through, who delivers it, what the setup looks like before it happens. Set that picture down. Because what is coming is not following that script. It is arriving through a side door you did not know existed, through a connection you would not have predicted, through a conversation that starts as something ordinary and reveals itself to be something that changes the trajectory of what comes next, through a decision that in the moment feels small and turns out to be the hinge everything else swings on. It is going to look in its early stages like coincidence, like timing, like a fortunate accident. Let it look like that if it needs to. Do not require it to announce itself dramatically. Do not wait for the fanfare before you recognize what is happening. Pay attention to the small things in the coming days and weeks, the unexpected message, the conversation you did not plan for, the idea that arrives fully formed while you are doing something completely unrelated. The person who appears in a context where you would never have expected them. These are not coincidences. These are the early edges of what I am describing. And if you are paying attention, if you are present enough to notice the quality of these moments rather than dismissing them as random, you are going to feel the shift before it becomes fully visible. Your instincts are going to register it before your mind can articulate it. Trust that registration. I also want to speak to something that I am sensing very strongly in your energy and that I think is directly connected to why this particular moment is arriving now and not before. You have changed, not in a dramatic, visible, externally obvious way necessarily, but internally in the architecture of how you see yourself and what you believe you are capable of and what you are willing to accept and what you are no longer willing to tolerate. You are not the same person you were when this waiting began. And that matters enormously because what is approaching requires a version of you that is ready to receive it without immediately diminishing it, without unconsciously redirecting it away, without the old patterns of self-doubt stepping in to complicate what should be simple. Earlier versions of you were not quite ready for this, not because you were not worthy, you were always worthy, but because readiness is not about worthiness. Readiness is about capacity, about having done enough internal work that when the right thing arrives, you can hold it properly. You have reached that capacity. That is not something I am saying to make you feel good. That is something I am reading clearly in the energy around you right now. There is a settledness in you that was not there before. A kind of quiet knowing that coexists with the uncertainty rather than being destroyed by it. That settledness is the signal. It is the energetic equivalent of a door fully opening, and what is on the other side of that door is already moving toward you. Let me talk about luck for a moment, because that is the word that keeps surfacing when I sit with your energy, and I want to address it honestly. Luck is real. I do not mean that in a mystical sense. I mean it in the very practical sense that timing exists, that convergences happen, that there are moments in a person's life where the external conditions align with the internal readiness in a way that produces results that effort alone could not have produced. Those moments are real. They are not evenly distributed across time. They cluster. And you are in one of those clusters right now. The conditions around you are favorable in a way that is not permanent but is very present. And what you do within this window, how awake you are to what is being offered, how willing you are to step toward the things that appear rather than waiting for absolute certainty before you move. That is going to determine how much of this particular cluster you actually capture. Luck does not reward passivity. It rewards the person who is awake enough to notice the opening and courageous enough to walk through it before they have full confirmation that it leads somewhere good. You have the instincts for this. You have always had the instincts for this. The question is whether you are going to trust them this time. There is something coming back to you, something that left or was taken or slipped through your fingers during a period when you did not have the positioning or the clarity or the strength to hold on to it. Maybe you know exactly what I am referring to. Maybe it is sitting at the front of your mind as I say these words. Maybe it is something you push to the back. something you made peace with losing, because making peace with it was the only way to keep moving forward. Either way, it is circling back, not as a repeat, not as a second chance at an identical version of what existed before, as something evolved, something that has been updated to match the evolved version of you that exists now, rather than the version of you that existed when it first appeared. It will feel familiar and new at the same time. You will recognize its essence and be surprised by its form. And there will be a moment, a brief, suspended moment where something inside you settles in a way it has not settled in a very long time. Where the part of you that has been quietly holding space for this thing, even when your conscious mind was trying to let it go, finally exhales. That moment is coming, and it is closer than it has ever been. I want to talk about the people dimension of this because it is present and it is significant. There are people who are about to enter your life at exactly the right moment. And I want to be specific about what I mean by the right moment. I do not just mean that their timing will be convenient. I mean that they are arriving at the precise point in your development where you are able to recognize their value immediately, where you have the depth to meet them at the level they operate from, where you are no longer going to undersell yourself in their presence or mistake their investment in you for something other than what it is. These are people who see you accurately, not a diminished version of you, not a projected version, not the version that exists through the filter of someone else's insecurities or limitations. The actual you, and being seen accurately by people who have the capacity to meet you where you actually are, rather than where it is convenient for them to believe you are, is one of the rarest and most valuable things that can happen in a human life. It is happening for you. In this window, pay attention to who shows up. Pay attention to who makes you feel like the most natural version of yourself rather than a performance of yourself. Those are your people, and they are arriving now. Here is something I feel I need to say very directly. Do not minimize this when it comes. I know that sounds like a strange thing to warn someone about, but I have seen it happen. Someone receives exactly what they have been waiting for, and instead of receiving it fully, they immediately begin qualifying it, questioning whether they deserve it, waiting for the other shoe to drop, holding the good thing at arm's length because full proximity to something genuinely positive feels unfamiliar and therefore unsafe. Do not do that. What is coming is not a trick. It is not a setup for a disappointment. It is not a temporary fluctuation that is going to reverse itself the moment you get comfortable. It is real, and it is for you, and it is asking to be received fully, not tentatively, not with one hand extended and one hand held back, but completely. Give yourself permission to receive completely. That permission is not naivety. It is not setting yourself up. It is the recognition that you have done the work. You have held the integrity. You have stayed in the waiting when the waiting was genuinely hard. And what arrives now is not luck in the random sense. It is the honest return on everything you have been investing in yourself and in the life you have been quietly, persistently, unwaveringly building. Let me close with this. The reason I called you lucky is not because fortune is randomly smiling in your direction. It is because of what luck actually is. When you strip away all the mythology around it, luck is what happens when preparation and opportunity meet. And you have been preparing longer than felt fair, through more than felt necessary, with more quiet dedication than most people will ever know, because most of it happened in private, in the unseen spaces of your life, in the moments where no one was watching and you chose to keep going anyway. The opportunity is arriving now. And the meeting of those two things, your preparation and this moment, is what I am calling rare, because it is. Not everyone reaches this point. Not everyone holds their integrity through the kind of waiting you have experienced and arrives at the other side still oriented towards something better, still fundamentally open, still carrying that quiet, unextinguished belief that things are going to shift. You did. You are here. And what is coming is the honest, specific, long overdue answer to every silent, private, unwitnessed moment. When you chose to keep going, it is on its way, and it is rare, just like you,